Good evening at 6 o'clock, Council Chambers, City of Marshfield, Tuesday, February 24th. Call to order, roll call. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Identify possible conflicts of interest. Seeing none, move on to item D, public comment period, correspondence. At this time, I will recognize persons in attendance wishing to address the council. Upon recognition by me, persons may address the council, first stating their name and address. Comments will be limited to no more than 5 minutes, and persons are asked to be respectful when addressing the council. No action will be taken regarding items not on the agenda. However, the council will take comments from the public under advisement. Please note that the council members will not respond to your comments or questions. First up, Richard Kranz. Yes, otherwise there's a little shelf next door to you. Whatever works easiest for you, Richard, that's fine. Yep. Then you got it in front of you. Yep. Oh, push the little button. There you go.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, sir.
First of all, this is my first time addressing the entire council. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you. My name is Richard Kranz, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and council. My address is 312 South Cherry Avenue. I bought the historic Frank Knoll house on the corner of 4th and Cherry about 7.5 years ago. So I'm relatively new to Marshfield, again, 7.5 years, but not new to Wisconsin, thanks to my 5th great-grandfather who settled in, was a Revolutionary War soldier and settled in Wisconsin in 1837. I addressed the Plan Commission last week, so now I would like to address the entire council. I'm addressing you tonight about the old Weinbrenner building. And please accept my apologies ahead of time. I know that I'm talking late in the process. I'm new and naive about this, but I'd like to express some desires here. A couple of months ago when I decided to run for city office, I began talking to members of the community about the old Weinbrenner building. And I had what we started talking about was envisioning a public museum complex. And that would be like a natural history museum, art museum, even a veterans and children's museum. There was a lot of support, community support for this idea. Some of the suggestions, and I know this was brought up in the past, were to put a sports bar and a restaurant on the top, and then a gift shop, coffee shop and gift shop on the lower level. And what I'd like to expand on the wonderful work that both the Governor's Mansion and Marshfield Heritage Museum has done, and their respective nonprofits. Wonderful work, and not to mention preserving the old City Hall building. So I know there's going to be challenges with this option if you would consider this. The funding is probably going to be the main obstacle. But I know the building is both on the state and National Registry of Historic Buildings. So there is some possibility of county, state, or federal grants involved here. And again, I don't know how far in the process you've been. If you've only looked at one particular option for it, we will obviously need to have engineers, contractors, architects, et cetera, give estimates on the costs involved. Maybe we've already given estimates, like, for instance, if it was for housing. Now, if you've already decided that this building should be for housing, I please ask you to reconsider this public museum option for the greater public good. For this to happen, I ask for your help and for any support you're willing to give. And I'm appealing to the vast experience of this council and the city officials. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Richard. Next, Matt McLean.
Thank you, Lois. I just wanted to do a brief visit Marshfield update, and as well let you know that I'm here for when the Wenzel Plaza discussion comes on the agenda, as well as Nikki Anderson. So we're here if you have any questions related to that.
Name and
Excuse me.
address, please.
Oh, thank you. Matt McLean, 609 North Hume Avenue, representing Visit Marshfield today. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess first, I would like to thank again the council for believing in us and renewing our tourism aid agreement for 4 years a few months ago. Also, I hope you have got your hands on the new 2026 Visit Marshfield guide. We're really proud of this. We did all of our work with local company Heinzen Printing. They've helped us design it, sell the ads. We've brought the content and the pictures, and they've printed it and helped us distribute it. So it's really spending a lot of resources and time locally there has been great for us, and they've done a great job. One thing that I've been talking a lot about with partners, we've been meeting a lot with Main Street and the Chamber and having some good productive meetings. One page I'm proud of here is page 16, and we made an article called Why Young Professionals and Families Should Consider Living and Working in Marshfield. So if you haven't read page 16, I really like it. I think it's a bigger, broader perspective of like kind of economic development and why people should move here, live here. And so please check that out. Also, too, I wanted to let the council and the public know we're going to be doing some survey work. We did quite a bit of survey work in 2018 era when we were doing the new branding for Marshfield Made New. And it's been about, that's almost 8 years ago now. So we're kind of time to do that again. So I've spoken with partners such as Tom with communications, as well as the Chamber and Main Street and some other partners about we'll be pushing out this survey here in the next few weeks and doing a couple different surveys over the next few months of kind of Marshfield perspective of people that live in Marshfield about tourism, perspectives of visitors, and just trying to understand, what Marshfield is, what people think about Marshfield, and how we can, make it better and market it better. Also, too, we're excited. Maple Fall Fest, it's already that time. So we've already been signing up vendors that have come in the past, and we're getting close to just kind of opening the gates for anybody and everybody that wants to be part of Maple Fall Fest. We're excited about that. We're doing some new website updates, as well as working and pushing our YouTube video series with Miss Anderson is a star, and there's been over 300,000 views of our YouTube videos, and have released some newer ones here in the last month or two. So that's all I got. Just wanted to give a brief update, and I will maybe talk more.
Thank you, Matt. John Tracy?
Good evening, everybody. John Tracy, representing Uptown Coffee Company, 211 South Central Avenue. I'm just coming here. I don't want to be a complainer or anything like that, but we had snow this past weekend, and it seems like this entire winter, the snow plowing schedule has neglected the parking spaces in front of businesses on Central Avenue. I sent the mayor some photographs this weekend of what I was looking at Saturday morning when I arrived at our coffee shop. Basically, the spaces were unusable. Even when I did force myself to use one because I'm stubborn, I was honked at and sneered at by people because trying to get out of my car, I had to open my door into traffic. My passenger in the car had to jump across about 3 feet of snow just to lose his shoe in the snow, and then get in there. And I'm not saying this because this is affecting me personally. I looked up and down the street and showed photos of it, both sides of the street. And I think the Daily Grind also posted something similar, saying, this is just unacceptable. We rely on local traffic to support our downtown local businesses. And if that's the reception they get, it's very easy for them to drive by and go to the north side and choose a vendor that does have plowed streets or does have an offering that they can get in and out of very easily. We're trying to build a downtown community. There's a lot of energy and effort in this room representing the downtown space. So to put our foot forward like that on a Saturday in the winter, I understand it snowed, but we got to do a better job of cleaning out those parking spaces. I was pleasantly surprised Monday morning when I came in. And I mean, yeah, the spaces looked beautiful, but I think as a 7-day-a-week offering, you need to present that with your best foot forward as possible. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, Sarah Vensky.
Good evening, Sarah Vensky, 907 Erickson Avenue. And I'm just kind of tagging on to John's comment. So he was there Saturday. We were there on Sunday. My husband is disabled, does walk with a cane. Luckily, we don't have to use a wheelchair. But even with his cane, being able to walk a little bit, Central Avenue, very inaccessible for him. We were not able to park on Central, even parking on Second. There was a gentleman parked next to us. He had a shovel out. He must have been his mother was walking with a walker, trying to get her in and out too. So, yeah, just parking. It'd be nice for my husband to be able to access all of the downtown businesses as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Denise Sonneman.
Good evening. My name is Denise. I'm with Mackey, 700 South Central. I'm here on behalf of our downtown business community. As you've already heard, this past weekend, we experienced significant issues with the snow removal, specifically the parking stalls on Central Avenue. Because of this, many businesses lost customers and revenue. Cars were unable to park, and in several cases, vehicles were getting stuck. Our downtown businesses work hard every day to serve our community, and accessible parking is essential for them to succeed. When snow removal falls short, the impact is immediate and costly. I'm simply asking that we do better. We need a more consistent and effective snow removal plan for our business district, so our small businesses are not put at a disadvantage during the winter events. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Vicki Tracy.
I'm Vicki Tracy. I'm also from Uptown Coffee. I agree with all the snow removal things, but I wanted to talk just for a minute about Wenzel Plaza and the concert series and other bookings that happen at Wenzel Plaza and how important it is for downtown businesses to have that. We battle every day with trying to get foot traffic. Literally to get people walking and to get some pedestrian traffic into our businesses. And the plaza is a big piece of that. The Friday night concert series it's good for so many of us. I know Mojo's is busy on Friday nights. We actually stay open Friday nights until the concert series starts. So we get some people who come straight to us after work and then go over to the plaza. We go to the plaza, between John and I, one of us is there every concert. And we see all of these people who don't have cabins, who don't go to Wausau for dinner, who don't have all these other places that they go on the weekends. They stay in our community. So it's important that we continue to provide things for them to do in our community, like entertainment, like concerts. And I think it impacts the businesses downtown more than most of us probably realize. Some nights it's a couple hundred people that are downtown that would not be on a normal Friday night, and same with other events that we have. It's so nice to know that there's someone we can contact that is our go-to for all things plaza related. It's been really nice to have Nikki Anderson there. I know that it was her choice to leave her position, but it's a really important position, and I would like to see that position continue so that this doesn't all fall on Park and Rec, on Justin, or even worse, that it just falls away and doesn't happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments? Any other citizen comments? I want to thank all of you for coming forth this evening. That's real important that we hear and that you are able to do this. So thank you, thank you, thank you all. Moving on to item E, approval of minutes, February 10th, 2026, regular meeting. We have a motion by Alderman Tompkins, second by Alderman Coran. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Werman?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros?
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you. Staff updates.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not aware of any this evening.
Okay, mayor's comments. I just want to congratulate Josh Moritz, Director of Public Works. Thank you, Josh. Item H, council comments. Seeing none. Item I, city administrator's update.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we're nearing the end of my bi-weekly comments about strategic planning meetings. So this will not be my only report going on in the future, but I just want to remind people, we have them scheduled now a week from Thursday, March 5th. That first one will be held over at UWSP. I want to thank Tony Andrews and his group over there for preparing to host it. I'll send out some information very shortly on that. That'll be 5:30 to 8:30 on Thursday, the 5th of March. The second one will be over at the 2nd Street Community Center in the Drendel Room, and that'll be also 5:30 to 8:30 on Thursday, March 12th. So look for some information from me coming up probably tomorrow or Thursday at the latest on those meetings. And then also I'm going to keep tabs with those of you, all of you, regardless of whether you said you could make these or not, to make sure that in fact I've got a quorum for those sessions. And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you very much. Reports from commissions, boards, and committees. Seeing none. Item K, consent agenda, meeting minutes and reports. We have a motion by Alderman Varshall, second by Alderman Giles. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Werman,
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros,
Yes.
That motion passes. And I'm going to change item L because there's no action reported. I'm going to congratulate Tim Cassidy for our new city administrator. Item M, presentation options for the 2026 Wenzel Plaza concert series and future plans related to duties of the events and programming coordination position presented by Steve Barg, City Administrator, and Justin Casperson, Parks and Rec Department Director.
Thank you, Mayor. We're going to double team. I'll start out with just a brief history, but I think Justin might have covered the history a little bit when he was at the podium at the last meeting, I should say, on how we got here. But just real quickly, it started back with a vision to create the Wenzel Family Plaza, which is exciting. We were trying to do a kind of our own version of the 400 block in Wausau. It turned out well. We've had concerts and events there now for many years. Soon after that, we got the program going with needing to have an events coordinator. And it wasn't long before Nikki Anderson became part of that. I want to commend her on doing an absolutely awesome job for the past 7 years. You've been amazing, and that's made the plaza a vibrant and exciting place to go, not just on Friday nights, but in general. Anyway, in late 2021 and then starting out 2022, the position transferred from being under the oversight, if you will, of Main Street, to becoming a city employee under Justin at the Parks and Recreation Department. That individual, being Nikki, took on additional duties for the department. You'll hear more about that when Justin comes to the podium. Became a full 40-hour position, handling the plaza, plus other promotion and helping community groups in a number of ways. Like I said, that'll be coming up later. I want to get to where we are right now today. And first of all, I want to get to some requests that were made by the council on February 10th. First of all, there have been a request made for the proposal that Nikki has submitted in very late 2025. I did send that to you by email, so you have that proposal. I realize it's been a few weeks now, but I wanted to make sure you had your attention drawn to that. And then also the question came up, how much revenue has been generated in the last few years? Nikki's worked hard to get grants and sponsorships and those kind of things. I put on your tables tonight, and for those of you who are remote, I did send it to you by email, a summary of the last 3 years. It appears that in 2023 through 2025, for those 3 years, we raised through Nikki's efforts a total of $37,000, roughly $12,000 to $13,000 a year, which helps to offset the cost of the concerts, of signing up the bands that we have down at the plaza on Friday nights. So that's been a benefit. I just wanted to quantify how much has actually been raised during that time. And then the other update I want to give is just, you were asking for the perspective of the Park and Recreation and Visit Marshfield staff. Well, they're here tonight, so I think you might hear from them. But Park and Recreation initially flagged a couple things. Number one, with respect to the adventures proposal we were dealing with, okay, that's a great proposal, but what about the night of? What about the day of? Who's going to be out there on Friday nights to help the bands? They raised some other concerns too, but that was a big one, along with, again, wanting to bring forth the idea of replacing Nikki with a full-time staff person and sticking with that model. So Justin will be at the podium here in a little bit to talk about his perspective. And then Visit Marshfield, I had a good meeting with Matt and was over at the Visit Marshfield board today. What came out of that conversation is an idea that he and Nikki might work together potentially to fill this gap for 2026. And it's an exciting proposal that they brought forward for your consideration tonight as well. And I put that on your tables. And I believe I sent it to you around noontime today as well for those of you who were tuned into your email. So with that in mind, I'm just going to really touch briefly on the options available to the council. And first of all, I want to separate it into two pieces. Number one is the short term. I've yet to talk to any human being in the city who doesn't want the 2026 concert series to move forward, okay? That's a given. The vote is 19,000 to 0. So we're going to talk about the short term. We're sitting here a couple days from the end of February. There's a couple of options we can work with to get that done. And then dovetailing into when Justin comes to the podium, taking a look at the staff position that we had when Nikki was doing it, events and programming coordinator, what the function of the position was, what the duties were, and then talking about whether or not we want to continue in a long-term perspective, looking at refilling that position. So first of all, in the short term, I put on your tables again tonight the Adventures proposal. Reminder that Adventures is a company that has been doing this for other communities where they solicit bands, sign them up, make the arrangements to get them to the communities, get things set up for them to perform, that kind of thing. They are not as heavy on the day of as some of the things we've been talking about, because we've kind of realized that if we were going to do it with Adventures, that we would need some help from Park and Recreation, maybe a part-time employee or an intern, somebody on staff to be helping on the day of actually, with some of the details that come up, expected and at the last minute. But it's a proposal that called for them to spend the $20,000 on the concerts that we plan to, and then they would get 15% of that. They would be paid $3,000 for their work. And you've got the contract in front of you. It's 2 pages. You've seen it before. The one I sent to you around noontime today and put on your desk tonight is from Matt and Nikki from Visit Marshfield. I mentioned I was at their board meeting today. They embraced the idea. The agreement that's before you could be certainly modified a little bit, tweaked. Matt has worked really hard, and I want to commend you on putting this together in the last few days. But it gives you a sense overall of how it would work in terms of what the city would make payment, $20,000 for the concerts, and what Matt and Visit Marshfield and Nikki working together would do in order to make sure that the concert series takes place on roughly 8 Friday nights during the summer. And it's a good proposal as well. And I think they've done a good job putting that together. So at this point, I want to stop and see if there's any questions on what I've put forth so far before I have Justin come up and talk about the broader issue of what we do with the position.
Alderman Marshall?
Yeah, I would, can I ask Nikki and Matt a question first? Or ask you?
Certainly.
I mean, does this Visit Marshfield proposal supersede Nikki's? Hers is gone now. This is a proposal with them together.
I'm not sure if superseding is the right word, but I mean, we haven't been looking at hers as much lately. No. And now with this new proposal, I would suggest that it's up to the mayor as the chair of the meeting, but if she would see fit to allow Matt and or Nikki to come up and speak to what they're suggesting right now, that'd be appropriate.
I think that'd be wonderful. Yes, if you two would mind coming up.
Sorry, Justin.
He'll get his time.
Sorry, Justin, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I know you got to go, so.
Okay, thank you. Yes, it would supersede the previous proposal. When I made that proposal, that was back in November, December. And so that would have been more time for me to book, and it would have been a longer, I would have been already working towards this. With Matt and Visit Marshfield helping, that I'm not doing it all on my own. And so that's why we replaced it with this proposal.
Okay, that's all I want to know. I mean, don't get me wrong. She's got to be involved.
Correct.
In order to move forward. Her proposal was that you sent off last week. I thought wasn't that bad. I thought it was a very good proposal. And now seeing this, I just want to make sure that, she's working with them because she has to be involved for this short-term one. If we do decide to go in a route and hiring someone full-time for next year, I understand, but she has to be involved in this year. And if we can get her involved, we have to move that direction.
And I will say, Brian, just kind of on that, I have talked to Justin about this, obviously, before I left. And since then, I obviously feel it's really important that this position gets filled because there's so much more that I did than just the concert series. And if someone were to be hired, I would absolutely help them on Friday nights as well to show them the ropes. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Just, sorry. Just one more comment. I don't think it's blatantly spelled out in the agreement that you received here, but the plan is to contract services from Nikki and work together is it might not be spelled word for word in the agreement, but that is the big part of the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Curran.
Question for Nikki and Matt.
Get those steps in.
Yep.
So if this was approved, are you still going to solicit sponsorships, and will that money go in the pool for bigger and better bands, or what's your plan for those dollars?
Yeah, we did have a discussion with the board of directors as well as with Steve, Amanda, and Justin, and I think the takeaway from that was that yes, fundraising would still happen, and that the fundraising would really go to pay for the bands, pay for some of the band's costs. Visit Marshfield and this agreement with the $40,000, some of those dollars would go to pay for bands, but we probably need a good $25,000-$30,000 to I think really get the bands that we'd want in the series, and we'd hope to raise 15 to 20,000 is I think what we're talking about.
Sounds good.
That's it? Okay. Justin, you are up. Oh, actually, I'm apologize. Wait, don't go yet. Alderman Tompkins has a question. I'm sorry.
Actually, it's a question for Justin, so he can talk and then
so
I'll
you
ask
guys
him.
can sit down now. Do you want Justin to do his pitch first? Thank you very much.
I don't have much for a presentation. I think most of you are familiar with Nikki and the job that she did, not only at the plaza, but in the community as a whole. I think a lot of attention goes towards the concert series. I think it should, but there's a lot of things that was done behind the scenes that Nikki was really vital for, and that's the connections with community groups, whether it was at Columbia, whether it was at Wildwood, whether it was at Wenzel. She was kind of our go-to person to help with special event logistics. Whether it was Hub City Days, Dairy Fest, Maple Fall Fest, she was that person that went to those meetings, the pre-planning meetings to make sure whatever was needed from the city, from an engineering perspective, from a street department perspective, from a parks perspective, it was kind of she was the one that was kind of the eyes and ears for that. She also I would ask her to attend bid meetings, Main Street meetings, design committee meetings, things of that nature, which was helpful to kind of keep everyone on the same page. So she was kind of the nucleus. And it was great Nikki was there, but now Nikki's gone, so we kind of lose that nucleus. We lose that connection with all these groups. And she did more than that. The Luminary Hikes just took place at the zoo a couple weeks ago. Our park staff were the ones who actually did everything. And we had the Main Street Awards where they had some challenges, which only person who kind of knew what was ran was Nikki. We don't need Nikki back, but we need someone like Nikki back to kind of help with those logistical questions that take place. We have the 4th of July Fireworks Festival is willing to give us another $20,000. Nikki coordinated those contracts and agreements with Festival, with the pyrotechnics company, as well as what was going on the ground that day, who was going to open up bathrooms. So it's all that stuff that doesn't really garnish the attention the concert series happens, but it was a way for the city to provide this service to all these groups, whether it was Main Street, whether it was even just a church group that wanted to do a Sunday morning service, or whether it was yoga in the park. It was just a matter of having that person available. Nikki was doing that prior to coming with the city. So she was doing that when she was with Main Street. She came because it evolved to that point where she needed more resources like our staff to help and storage and logistical things that really helped solidify that position. I'm not saying it has to stay on Park and Rec. I'm not saying it has to stay with the city, but I think it's important as a community we have that position somewhere. And I think it's evolved here because no one else really wanted it. I think it's a good fit with the city. We still have some control over what happens. And I think you guys like that, to have some pulse on the community and knows what's going on. And whenever you need something, whether it's myself or Nikki's replacement, we can come and talk to the council, whether it's the administrator, the mayor, whatever it might be. The importance is this short term is the concert series. Long term is what are we doing with the position going forward, and how does that help or benefit not only the city, but the community and all the stakeholders that involved. And this is kind of how we got here. Way back in 2017 when the plaza was constructed, our department wasn't consulted, I wasn't involved, but here I am today trying to keep that momentum moving forward. I don't want to see it fall short. So I'm here to answer any questions of whether it's about the position, the concert series, whether it's about the agreement. I have all the faith in Matt and Nikki doing a great job with the concert series. I have no qualms or issues. I feel much more comfortable with those two than I did with the E-Adventures, that's for sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Alderman Curran.
I'd like to see
I'm sorry, excuse me. Oh, your light is not on, Natasha. I wasn't sure if you had turned it back off again, but your light is not on. Okay. Okay. Alderman Tompkins, stay up there, please, because she has some questions for you.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone who had spontaneous meetings. We tabled this for 2 weeks, which was a short time period just because we knew it was a crunch. So I'm sure there were multiple people and multiple meetings. And I'm actually quite amazed with what you came back with in 2 weeks. So yay, kudos to everyone for that. My question is, we as a council voted to provide the funds for this position in the 2026 budget, which I feel like it was the council's way of saying we do want to fill this position. Justin, what do you need from us to actually, post it and say this is an open position?
Well, typically that's handled through administration, so that would be handled through our Human Resources Department as well as city administration. On the posting question itself, through all those avenues, we would go ahead and post it publicly through whatever services or sources that we have. We would start the hiring process. At that time, we were asked to kind of like just pause for a moment. We want to make sure the Visit Marshfield agreement was solidified and taken care of, because that was a major kind of point that wanted to get taken care of. And then we also wanted to see if there was a grant opportunity. I don't know if that grant opportunity is really attainable at this point. There's a lot of logistics that go into applying for that specific grant. It's something I was hopeful last year, but I don't think it's really attainable now because it requires a lot of moving parts to be in place before the grant can actually be submitted. And that means a lot more board meetings to happen outside of this board and other boards, and they only meet once a month. So we have the month of March, and that grant is due at the end of March. And it's, what is it, 27th today? Oh, 21st?
Yeah,
Thank you, Jennifer.
I'm sorry. We had talked about the innovation grant. One of the ideas that came up after Nikki left and some of the conversations was, would it be possibly worth looking at having the position housed somewhere else, and the city still making a significant payment toward that position and getting 25% of the position paid for by the state government through the innovation grant for 4 years. But as Justin said, we kind of looked at it, didn't get real far with it, and of course the clock starts running down. So we kind of came back to the route of looking for contractor now, and then whether or not to refill the long-term position.
Thank you.
Alderman Curran.
So whether we take action on the filling this position tonight, I think it's very important that we get it on our strategic plan to start discussing this, because this is a very important position, and we owe it to the donors of the plaza, because we promised them programming, so this would be a plaza, not a park. And I think we owe them the very least of having events in this area. I think are extremely important, as was spoken to about the downtown. It is the heart blood of our downtown.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I see we have a motion on the floor by Alderman Tompkins. And Alderman Tompkins, your motion is?
My motion is to approve this cooperative service agreement between the City of Marshfield and Visit Marshfield.
And Alderman Giles?
Yes.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Werman?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros?
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you very much. Item N, presentation development of the city's, we're not doing the city because James has not made it to work today. So we will go on to item
I think he's going to do it remotely. Is he with us?
Okay.
Can you see evidence that he's with us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, there we go.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I see Justin's waving his hand.
Yeah.
I just wanted to follow up on the last action that was taken to make sure I understand it.
Okay,
We still have the position itself. Nikki did give her letter of resignation in October. It's now, I would say, beginning of March. No movement has been made on that position. It's usually a 90-day turnaround by the time we first post it to the actual person's here on job site, which means it's 90 days from March 1st, which puts it almost May 1st to June 1st. What direction can I take away from at least this position? I know Alderman Curran talked about strategic planning. That seems to be a moving target in and of itself, and I don't want it to be delayed further, but I want to try to position ourselves correctly, not only for the summer, but all the other things that are about to pick up steam in the next few months. And we've received a lot of comments already, like who's doing the movies in the park, those types of things. Right now, we have no one scheduled. And I'm fine with pausing, but I want to let everyone know that some of these things will not be done. And if the change of direction is going to happen, that's great. But I know we addressed the short-term thing, but long-term, I don't know what we're going to do going forward. And I apologize. I should have maybe spoken earlier, not let that slide through.
That's okay.
Yep, we do have a motion on the floor by Alderman Cran, and Alderman Cran, your motion is?
My motion is to post this position in order to fill it.
And my second is to do the same.
Any questions, comments? Steve, did you want to make a comment?
No, I was going to talk about the process and what I was thinking through, but now a motion's been made, so that's fine.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, please vote.
Mr. Werman?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros?
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you. Okay, now, presentation development of the city's 2027-2037 comprehensive plan presented by James Levin, city planner.
Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you, James.
Great. Thank you. And again, I apologize. I'm homesick, battling a fever, so I'll try to be as brief and succinct as possible with this presentation. So tonight, I want to talk about alignment. Marshfield has many strong initiatives underway, and they are happening somewhat independently. The comprehensive plan is the tool that ties them together and gives us a coordinated direction for the next 10, if not 20 years. Marshfield's current comprehensive plan was adopted in the July of 2017. Under Wisconsin State Statute 66.1001, it must be updated at least every 10 years. Because this process typically takes 18 to 28 months, we need to begin thinking about it now if we want to meet that timeline responsibly. We need to start being proactive and start identifying how this process comes together. So this slide shows just a couple of things that we're currently working on as a city. The West 2nd Street redevelopment, Weinbrenner reuse, police relocation, potential housing studies, industrial growth strategies, TIF management, multiple parks and infrastructure projects, and other departmental projects that I haven't even listed. All of these are significant decisions with long-term impacts. The question becomes, what ties them together? Right now, these initiatives overlap, but they don't sit within a clearly refreshed, unified structure. The comprehensive plan is meant to be that framework. So a comp plan is the city's long-range policy framework in general. The state requires it to have a minimum of 9 categories, including issues and opportunities, housing, transportation, utility and community facilities, agriculture and cultural resources, economic development, intergovernmental cooperation, land use, and implementation. It's designed to guide land use, capital planning, TIDs, zoning incentives, and it anchors decisions to adopted policy rather than a case-by-case debate. And without an updated plan, major decisions can become political arguments instead of policy conversations. So Marshfield has not lacked plans. We've had comprehensive plans, we've had downtown master plan, economic development strategies, housing studies, sewer service area plans, bike and ped plans, I think 5 or 6 campus master plans and recreation plans. The issue has not been ideas, and I think this is one of the most engaged communities I've ever had the privilege to be part of. I think the issue has been sustained integration and implementation strategy. So this slide is important. Looking back, we can start seeing consistent patterns. Strategies were broad and not sequenced. Plans weren't regularly updated. Implementation responsibility wasn't always clearly assigned. Linkages to capital budgeting and TIDs were sometimes weak. And when plans are not actively used, they become artifacts instead of tools. This update is about designing for implementation and getting creative with going beyond the 9 categories the state has outlined for this process. So 2027 is not an abstract date. West 2nd Street is active. The PD project location affects growth patterns for downtown. Our housing study needs geographic strategy. Our TIF policy should be reflecting adopted priorities. Industrial land decisions are time sensitive, and we are currently trying to rewrite portions of the municipal code. We're already making generational decisions, and the question is whether those decisions are coordinated. So this would be a structured, phased, 24-month effort at minimum. We're trying not to rush this process. It's a deliberate process that aligns data, vision, policy, and most importantly, implementation. Phase one focuses on alignment, securing funding, defining the scope, creating inventory of existing plans to see what's working and what hasn't, forming a steering committee, clarifying priorities before launching. Often past plans often struggled with a lack of ownership and structure, which it's designed to, bring that to all of our initiatives and all of our policies here at the city. This phase two, is about facts. We can work with a number of different partners, either consultants, the Regional Plan Commission, Wood County, et cetera, to identify demographic, housing capacity, industrial land supply and portfolio, TID performance, infrastructure constraints, and stakeholder input. We start replacing our assumptions with data to help us make these decisions. Phase three, this is where we translate data into direction, aiming for the end of this year, going into next in 2027. This is where we translate data into direction. What kind of growth do we want here in Marshfield? Where should it occur? Where should it not occur? What land use intensity aligns with our identity as a community? We can use this information and test scenarios publicly and with the Common Council. Phase four, policy implementation blueprint. We can use this to align a future land use strategy, which needs updating anyway, a housing policy that we are actively working with in our committees, industrial strategy for growth, our ongoing TIF policy, transportation and infrastructure code updates, et cetera. And using this, we can build a clear implementation matrix. Who does what and when over time. And finally, adoption isn't necessarily the finish line. A new comprehensive plan update can integrate into capital improvement planning, zoning procedures, annual reporting, departmental priorities, and strategic planning updates. We establish a method to measure progress, which is something prior plans identified, but didn't really consistently operationalize. In the interim, the preliminary strategy is to pursue grant funding to help the cost of this effort, whether it's CDBG or other state funding. We can tie this directly to active initiatives like Weinbrenner and Brame Park, which also have similar grant funding opportunities with other path we decide. We would keep engagement targeted and strategic. We can partner with some of our local organizations like Visit. We can partner with Main Street, Mackey, our existing CDA, and importantly, we could design for implementation accountability. So tonight, I'm not asking for adoption of anything. I'm simply asking for direction to support funding for this effort, authorization to draft a scope, agreement to integrate departmental planning, and guidance on timing. So if you could take anything away from this, if we don't choose our identity or choose our direction and community identity, projects will choose it for us. This process is more about intentional governance. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Any questions, comments from the council members? Thank you again. Hope you feel better, James. And then we'll move on to.
Thank you all.
You bet. Move on to item O, request to approve budget resolution number 03-2026, accepting donation of $11,440 for the purchase of players' shelters for Greasy Park, presented by Justin Casperson, Parks and Recreation Director.
When you get old, you need readers, and I'm sitting at my table over there. I have no idea where they are. Right here. The purpose of my memorandum is to request approval for Budget Resolution 3-2026, authorizing acceptance of $11,440 donation and the corresponding expenditure for the purchase of two-player shelters at Greasy Park. The McKieran family has a long-standing history of youth soccer in Marshfield. They played a significant role in the development of Greasy Park Soccer Complex. In recognition of their contributions, one of the soccer fields was named McKieran Field, honoring their support in local programming and facility development. In 2025, Fergus and Ann McKieran provided a monetary donation to support the purchase of two-player shelters for the use at soccer fields at Greasy Park. Installation of those shelters will enhance the field amenities, improve experience for athletes, the coaches, and spectators. The city received 3 quotes. The lowest quote was accepted by the Board of Public Works this evening, contingent approval on this budget resolution from Net World Sports of $11,440. The final piece in this puzzle is approval of this budget resolution, accepting their donation and the associated expenditure. So I'm looking for approval to accept budget resolution 3-2026 in the amount of $11,440 for the purchase of two-player shelters at Greasy Park.
We have a motion by Alderman Giles, second by Alderman Curran. Alderman Fire? Oh, your light's on, but okay. Any other questions, comments from the council? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Werman?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros?
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you, and thank you to that great family for helping us out with that. Item P, request to approve budget resolution number 04-2026 for UNPS and SW Construction Grant Services presented by Josh Moritz, Director of Public Works.
Thank you. I didn't realize this memo had so many acronyms in it.
Yeah, thank you.
So over the years, you've heard me talk a lot about the need for improving our stormwater quality. We're under a MS4 permit to regulate much of that. In 2023, a plan was put together, a 30-year plan to achieve our required suspended solids and phosphorus removal requirements. We began, one of the earlier projects is this year's Brain Park construction. The next project we have in line is the construction of a conversion of a dry detention basin in Mill Creek Business Park to a wet detention basin. Every other year, the DNR has a grant program to help fund construction and design. The grant is $150,000 max, up to 50% of the project, up to a max of $150,000. So to that end, we're pursuing hiring a consultant to help prepare that grant. And we've been successful with them in the past to receive that grant. However, funding was not established for the 2026 construction or year for this project. So I'm seeking approval of budget resolution 4-2026 to fund the urban non-point source and stormwater construction grant services.
We have a motion by Alderman Fire, second by Alderman Dellis. Alderman Tompkins.
Does the cost of the grant writer get incorporated into the grant amount that's granted?
It's part of the whole project. The $150,000 will not cover, it covers, that will not be half of this entire cost. So however you want to look at it, it's not specifically targeted at this fund or this fee, but it gets wrapped into the whole project.
Okay, so the cost of the grant writer gets put into the cost of the whole project?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Werman?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros?
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Request to submit revised job descriptions for Fleet Services Coordinator and Inventory Assistant/Operator to the city's compensation consultant for compensation evaluation, presented by Sarah Dressel, Human Resources Director. Wow, that was a lot to say.
Good evening, everyone. So as you may recall, back in 2024, I came before the group with a request for some CDL trainer compensation. At that time, we had 2 individuals who had received the training certification to be able to train our CDL drivers. In internally versus sending them off to get any training externally, definitely saving the city money. So what we were doing at that time is providing $5 per hour per trainer during the time only when they were training individuals. So since then, we've had some change in one of the individuals has been promoted into a different position. So anytime we have switch in positions or anything like that, we do like to look at job descriptions before we post positions, just in case anything has changed or there's anything different that a department head would be interested in adding to the job descriptions. So while talking to Tim Rasmussen, he did determine that the trainer certification required for the two positions, it would be best to place them into the two job descriptions that I'm bringing forth tonight, just because that will allow continuity, coverage, everything that's really needed to make sure that we sustain having this program internally with the city versus, again, having to send people out to get trained. So revising the two job descriptions to incorporate the CDL responsibilities as essential functions for the job really does require a closer look by our compensation group, just because it really does change overall the position. And so I briefly just sent an email just to make sure I wasn't off base in that assumption to McGrath, just to say, you know, do you think based on the little bit I'm feeding you for information that it would probably be necessary to look at it? And she did agree that this would kind of change the scope of the jobs. So I listed for you just some of the key changes to those essential job functions. It's actually not like adding a lot of wording to the job description, so you didn't see a ton of red, but it definitely does, again, change what these two positions will be required, which really is having that CDL and having at least 2 years of experience, having a Class A CDL, and then having or being able to obtain within a year the trainer certification through FMCSA. So the job descriptions were included in your packet. And then we do, through HR, every year we do assume that we may have a few needs to send to our compensation group for review, just because things do change, jobs do change, things like that. So we do budget for that annually for a few of those to go through. So that's why I'm not asking for any budget resolutions or anything like that. Those would be just part of the budget that we already have. So with that, I'm requesting approval to submit these revised job descriptions for the inventory assistant operator and the fleet services coordinator to McGrath Human Resources Consulting for a compensation evaluation.
We have a motion by Alderman Tompkins, second by Alderman Fire. Alderman Werman.
Thank you. I just wanted to double check. I saw between the two job descriptions, and I just, for consistency's sake, I wasn't sure if there was a reason for it, but in the minimum required for the trainer certification, the inventory assistant position calls out specifically obtaining that certification from the start of that position versus on the fleet coordinator, that one just says obtain the certification within 12 months from employment. And I didn't know if there was a specific reason or if we wanted to realign those to make sure we're consistent across the job positions.
Thank you for pointing that out. It really should be, the wording should be what it is in the inventory assistant operator. It really should be from the start of that position. So I will make that change to the other one. Thank you for pointing that out.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Werman?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros?
Yeah.
That motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Item R, request to authorize execution of a grant agreement with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation for purchase of one van for the city's shared ride program, presented by Jennifer Solinsky, Finance Director.
Good evening. The city operates a federal transit program, shared ride service through our current vendor, which is Running Inc. And the city purchases vehicles to operate the program through an 80-20 matching 5311 federal grant. And orders are to be placed with the Wisconsin state bid contract. The city plans for these vehicle purchases in its annual CIP program and budget. In 2025, the city planned to purchase one rear load van. This was budgeted and included in CIP. We levied debt for our 20% share of that vehicle. However, the federal government and works with the state to actually produce the agreement, and those were a little slow in coming. And so we have just received the agreement now for what we plan to buy in 2025. In order to purchase this van, we'll need to execute a grant agreement, which was also included in your packet. We didn't take the normal route of going through Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee first because time is of the essence. They want this grant signed before we would complete a cycle of the committee and council meeting. So with that, I would recommend that council approve us to execute the Federal Transit Administration 2025 Program Grant Agreement.
We have a motion by Alderman Fire, a second by Alderman Giles. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Warman?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros?
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item S, report and discussion regarding possible options for redevelopment of the Weinbrenner facility located at 305 West 3rd Street, presented by Steve Barg, City Administrator, at the podium.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we've been talking about Weinbrenner at many of our meetings, and it will continue here. I think we're at a very critical moment. But we want to talk to you from a staff level discussion about what we see, what the opportunities might be, and maybe where to take this. So briefly, let's just start with what has occurred to date. Most of you know now that we've done RFQs looking for people interested in working with us in both late 24 and late 25. And either one failed in a result of selecting a developer. At one point, we were talking with Jay Jeffers back in early 2025. It's an affordable housing project, and at the end of the day, we kind of separated from them. So developer interest we've received so far in the two RFQs seems to be limited to affordable housing projects. We had a handful of those the first time, and we had one developer that pulled away from us in the second RFQ. So we haven't had a lot of other property suggestions in terms of use for market rate apartments, higher end, mixed use with commercial, the gift shop, coffee shop kind of thing that we talked about has not come to pass as yet. We had an appraisal commissioned, and it was done in 2025 by a qualified appraiser, and that suggested a total value of the property of about $1.3 million. About $200,000 of that roughly was for land, and the other $1.1 million is for the structure. So that is presumed, at least from that estimate, to be the value of what we currently possess in that particular property. We believe that a substantial cost will likely be incurred as part of any redevelopment. So whether we're talking about housing or we're talking about something else, it would be an expensive event to renovate that building. It's got potential, but it's not going to come without a pretty big price tag. The Weinbrenner transition to the new facility in the business park is going well. They expect to be completing that in a couple of months, and they have the opportunity to use it through the end of June. After that point, the city will take possession, and at that time, we will assume full maintenance responsibility by, at the very latest, 7/1/26. That'll be a big moment for us. We've owned it all along, but now we'll be involved in the day-to-day upkeep and the responsibility of things that need to be done to maintain that particular building. So we think it's a critical time for decisions to be made by the city on the future of this property. The first need we consider to be immediate, and that is what we call stabilization. In other words, what are we going to do when we take possession of a building that we're not inhabiting, we're not occupying? The first need is going to be, and we need to start working on plans right away, to fully secure and weatherproof the building. It's a building that is not exactly, it wasn't constructed last year, so it's got some issues in terms of everything from windows to whatever else. We want to make sure that we are treating that well from the beginning to handle the building and maintain it properly. We also need to implement a plan for security and monitoring. One of the things that's come up in our conversations is the possibility of vandalism. a building like that could be a target, especially if there's no one seen coming or going. We need to come up with a plan that's going to protect that building to the greatest possible extent. Then we want to take steps to prevent further deterioration. Again, when you're not inhabiting a building, you're not occupying it, taking care of things on a daily basis, it could lead to some things that maybe get a little out of hand in terms of upkeep. We want to make sure that we're tending to it to maintain what we have in that structure. We want to identify repair needs that might be a priority item and be dealing with those as we have to based upon how long we're going to end up having the building without someone else occupying it. We want to, in whatever we do, we want to make sure that we avoid taking actions that could threaten the historic eligibility. It's on the federal and state register, which is mentioned earlier. It's got a high level of historic preservation that way. We don't want to be doing renovation work or interior work of any kind, that is going to threaten that in some way. So we want to make sure that even the repair needs we have, that we don't take away from the historic parts of that building. The 2026 budget that you approved includes $35,000 for this purpose. How far that will go, we don't know, but we did kind of have it put aside for any stabilization work that might have to be done when this day came. The length of this phase, the stabilization phase, kind of depends on what happens next. How soon does it come together? That you folks come up with another plan, you agree to do something else? How long does it take to implement that? So we don't know how long this will actually take. One thing that's been talked about a lot here in the recent meetings has been interim use. I think a lot of you have thought about this, and staff has as well. Can we find somebody to occupy the building for some period of time, not knowing how long that will be, to use it? Maybe it'd be an incubator, maybe it'd be a short-term use for a community group or a business. That will produce rent for us, which is good. It'll help offset the cost of utilities and whatnot. But beyond that, it'll also be somebody taking care of all or part of the structure for us that otherwise we're stuck with maintenance ourselves. So I think that's something worth talking about. And the things that are coming to mind are, what types of uses would be acceptable? What might we be considering if we were to allow somebody to use that on a temporary basis? What would be the challenges for a short-term tenant? What would that look like? I mean, many of you in this building, in this room right now, have taken the tour. You've seen what the building has to offer, but you've also seen some of the challenges that are faced from antiquated facilities, that it just brings that type of issue. We'll need to identify interior work that might be necessary, or what would be allowed if the tenant said, we want to come in here, but we'll only do it if we allow us to do this. Can we put up walls here temporarily? Can we put up partitions? Can we do these kind of things? What would be needed to make it workable for an interim use is going to have to be discussed. We would need to check with the what we call SHPO, that's the State Historical Prevention. Yeah, Prevent History, that's great. State Historical Preservation Office. And that is to make sure that whatever we do, whatever we allow, of even a temporary nature, is not going to threaten or compromise the historic nature of that building that we're all so proud of. Then we have to determine, if we do this, a maximum lease that we'd be willing to sign. How far would we go out with a potential tenant with the hope we have at that time of finding a permanent use for the building? Would it be 2 years? Would it be something else? That's something we'll have to discuss before we engage with a potential tenant. They're going to want to know. I don't think anybody's going to want to move in there and be kicked out after 6 months. They're going to say, well, we just occupied it. We just got set up, and now you're telling us we need to leave. So we have to come to some consensus as to what a short term would mean. And then decide how to market the property for an interim use. What would it mean? I mean, what kind of advertising, PR, how can we get the word out that we're entertaining options, and what are we entertaining for people to do a short-term occupancy? Now we get into the further thing, which is site redevelopment preparation. I'm going to assume this kind of part of the conversation by thinking that we're going to actually look for more redevelopment of that building, which I think is the premise we have right now, despite the fact that our first 2 RFQs did not produce a company that we're working with. An updated phase 1, which is kind of a history of the building to make sure that we've got everything right. These are things that a developer will want to know. Might have to do a phase 2. Now, phase 2 is actually doing testing of the building. The people we talked with, including Jeffers, cited that there's lead-based paint. We know that. There's asbestos in the pipes wrapping. So they were aware of the basic levels of contamination that they might be facing. But even the developers at that point that we interviewed weren't talking about a phase 2 yet. They kind of felt like they knew enough to be engaged with us in terms of interviewing with us and trying to become our developer. But I think the phase 2 may be warranted at some point. It probably depends on what the use is going to be, though. If we know what kind of use they're going to have, it may or may not warrant us doing a phase 2 in preparation. We'll probably do a hazardous materials survey, get an inventory of what's all in there. And remember, Weinbrenner is clearing out, but they've been there for a long time. And so there may be some issues we need to deal with there. We need to coordinate with the State Historic Preservation Office about anything that might be done to modify the building. Got a developer who's got a great idea, but it's going to involve some things that are going to change the scope and the nature of the building, particularly if it affects the exterior. Would the Historic Preservation Office support that? Or are they going to say, no, this is not going to cut it, folks. This is going to take away the historic character of the structure. And then we look at funding options like grants and tax increment financing, other opportunities to fund some of the work. And then the issues that were raised by the committee back in the day when they were interviewing these firms, and that is parking. Everybody's talked about parking, whether it's apartments or something else. Is there enough parking on that site? Would it be on street? Would there be going to the west? Would we make parking available on that adjacent street and maybe reconfigure some things? With apartments, you oftentimes have, in this day and age, you have 2 cars per unit. Both husband and wife drive, for example. So that's an issue that we have to face. And then, are there any street or utility issues that we should think about in advance of a redevelopment of that site? Now, I get into the 4 options that staff would like to throw forward for you to think about. The first is affordable housing. We looked at it in late 24 into early 25. Ultimately, the council decided to separate from Jeffers, said that we really didn't want to look at that avenue. But then, taking a consensus of the council about a month ago, quite a few of you raised your hands and said you'd be willing to reconsider affordable housing for that site. So number 1 is to look at that. The positives are we've already gotten developer interest. We've already gotten a number of developers who said that they would look at that. 4 of them actually submitted responses, and 1 of them was working with us for several months. So that interest is there. Also, federal and state tax credits can offset the cost of the project, filling that gap between the redevelopment cost, which was estimated at $26 million by the company we were working with, and the available revenues to fund it. This would still require at least some city financial participation, probably in the form of writing down the property to a very low number to hand it over to them, and also tax increment financing, probably on a pay-as-you-go annual remittance of some increment back to the developer. Good news is we are looking at closing tax increment District 4, that's a downtown TID, in 2027. And as people who on this group that are also part of the housing committee know, that will allow us to capture a significant pot of money to put toward affordable housing. And that could be key in terms of trying to create a project like this. And this would address the housing needs supported by the Bowen study. If you remember the Bowen study, and I think we haven't looked at it for a while, did suggest that there is a need for, at some level, affordable housing in the city of Marshfield. Negatives, I think this body has already questioned more than once. Would this be the highest and best use of the property? I think there's some thought that we could have gotten, or could still get, market or higher level rate housing. Is it something that we could look at another type of project for? It's kind of a key part of the West 2nd Street corridor. Do we really want to have affordable housing? So that question was raised. Also, what if we get into working with a contractor or a developer, and we've gone a long ways with them, and at the end of the day, their request for the LIHTC, low-income housing tax credit money, and the historic tax credits fails for some reason, and then we spent some time and it all goes for naught. That's always a possibility. You can't know for sure if they're going to get funded. If interested, I think the city should look at clarifying our environmental conditions. Again, looking back at things like, do we have contamination and some of those types of things that I mentioned earlier that have to be dealt with. Identify the limits that we're willing to participate. Are we willing to give away the property for little or nothing to a developer that has a project that we want? Are we willing to do tax increment financing? At what level? We need to talk about those kind of things in the background. And then figure out how we would re-engage with developers. Do we want to go back to the list that we've had back in 2024 and see if they're interested? We know that some were. We know Jeffers is. I've talked to them since the last go-round, and I know that they'd be interested in coming back. Others probably are as well. How do we want to spearhead that activity? Option number 2, market the property publicly. In other words, put it out there. I'm not saying put an ad in the News Herald. I don't know what this one looks like, but find a way to get the word out to as many people as we can through whatever means we can, that we would look at selling this property to somebody who's got a project that they want to bring to us. In other words, you make us an offer and you tell us what you do for it. I will buy it for this much money. Here's my plan. Here's what I would accomplish. Here's what it would do for the community. And then you look at what those developers, those contractors have to offer. It would be kind of an open market kind of thing. Very different than what we were doing by sending out emails to 150 potential redevelopment firms across the Midwest. What does that do for us? Well, number one, it does open the redevelopment possibilities to a broader audience. I mean, it may be people we're not even thinking of that would be willing to look at making an offer to buy this, the same way you make an offer to buy a commercial building and to try to renovate it for your use. We may get creative ideas that have not been considered. So far, we've talked a lot about housing with maybe a minor mixed-use component, a small little commercial piece and retail, but this might bring up ideas we've not even thought of. We could still work with that developer, and we would still work with that developer to make sure that the project he or she is proposing is in the best interest of the community. We wouldn't say, well, you're going to give us $3 million, so go use it as a warehouse and just store stuff. We don't want that. That's not our intent or our desire for that building. We want something much more. So we would still be engaged, and there would ultimately be a development agreement between the city and the developer, since we would be providing assistance, presumably. The negatives, we may attract projects that we're not even interested in, or they're not even feasible. You know, that happens when you go out to everybody and his brother. In doing so, we could put a little bit of political pressure on the mayor and council. Someone might come forward with an idea that says it's something that sounds like really fun or interesting, and we may think that's not going to work. That's not going to help our downtown. That's not even going to be feasible. But now the public is starting to grab onto the idea of an amusement park or something, and I just made that up. But something that has a lot of appeal, but maybe doesn't have much behind it that's going to really benefit that part of downtown. So we could lose control by not limiting responses to a certain set of uses that we put out in an RFQ. If interested, I would say that we figure out how to create and disseminate an advertisement for project responses, and then determine how to implement a PR plan to solicit ideas. Number 3, we look for a professional to assist us. You're going to say, wait a minute, we just had Vanderwall for how long? But we look for somebody who's done this before. I don't know where we get them, where we find them. It could be help from an organization we've already dealt with at some level in the governmental or quasi-governmental level, but it could be a business person who's done this to come here and say, look, I'll do a market analysis of what you have here. A fresh look from a qualified individual and firms. It may create new ideas and suggestions, something we haven't considered. And they can look at it, and if they've done this in other places, and say, well, for central Wisconsin, for a city of roughly 20,000, for where this property is, what it looks like, what your downtown has to offer, here's what I think the best bets are for you, and here's how I think you can try and accomplish that. The negatives potentially is the time. Finding someone, how long would the review take before this person gives us a report? Have no idea at this moment. And then I'm not sure at this moment what the compensation for this review would be. We could potentially find some funding assistance to help us with that. But at this moment, we don't know what that cost would be. If interested, I would suggest that we come up with a scope of service and a maximum cost that we'd be willing to pay for someone or some firm to do this. Use resources like the League of Wisconsin Municipalities and others to locate providers. Who does this service? Who's actually done this for other communities, and have they been successful at it? Have they made a difference in terms of moving projects forward? And then I put RFQ process. That may or may not be the way we do it, but somehow, how are we going to determine what individual or firm to choose to be this person to do a market analysis and say, here's what the city of Marshfield should probably be best suited to pursue. And then number 4, which I'm saying because it has to be said, I don't think anybody in this room is going to get really excited about it, but if we see nothing else good happening, we don't see any potential for anything that we really want to attract or draw as an opportunity for a redevelopment project, theoretically, we could do the clear and prepare the site for redevelopment. Again, it's a historic building. It's on the historic register. That doesn't mean you can't take it down, but it does mean that there's going to be a lot of discussions and there'll be some hurdles to clear, I assume. I have not been part of that before. But we'd have a block to redevelopment for residential or other purposes. The positives, it would provide a blank slate for future use of the site. It would open the field for a lot of ideas that you can't really come up with when you're looking at a building that's in front of you that you have to deal with that particular structure as a starting point. And it would remove the cost and the difficulty to maintain the structure. We're facing a lot of expense, heating, utilities, upkeep of the building for as long as we own it. Hopefully that won't be, we own it now, we've owned it for a long time, but the maintenance will be expensive for us. Again, I mentioned the windows are old, single pane, all the stuff that comes with an older building. And this would remove the cost of maintaining the structure if we were to do that. Negatives, I think you can picture it. We probably see a lot of people in this room saying, wait a minute, why are you doing this to a 100-plus-year-old building that's been a staple of our downtown? We could get pushback from preservation groups and advocates and residents in general to that idea. And the demolition and site clearing could be quite expensive. I mean, we're talking about an older, sturdy building that you're not going to knock down for a song and a prayer. If interested in that, we would engage qualified firms to address the environmental issues and then look at ways to offset the cost. Are there grants, are there other funds that would help us to deal with the demolition and clearing of the structure? But again, I'm saying that in my mind, in staff's mind, and I assume in most of the elected officials' mind, this is not a high priority alternative. It's kind of a fallback in my mind if everything else looks sour, to be quite frank with you. So with that in mind, staff's recommendations, first and foremost, that you would direct staff and authorize us to begin moving forward with the stabilization plan. We talked about how important that is. Some of the things I mentioned are not monetary costs. You know, there are things that we can start doing to try and get the pieces in place. There will be some things that cost money, I assume, and we'll bring them to your attention. But we have to preserve that building. We have to keep it safe. We have to keep it operating. We have to keep it as limited a threat to vandalism activity and those types of things as we possibly can during whatever time there's no occupant. So that's front and center, the most important thing we have to do in the near term. Then we look for a discussion from the council and providing direction now or, you know, sometime soon on an interim use. Are you interested in actively seeking someone who would be interested, one or more parties actually, it could be more than one, to have a short-term use of the building for some type of business or community purpose? Again, the benefits, it would be occupied, someone would be there to take care of it, we'd get some rent, and then there'd be the questions again about for what length of time and what would we allow to be the building used for. And then finally, discuss and provide direction on if any of those 4 redevelopment options sound appealing to you, and if so, how would you like to proceed, or what other things would you like us to look at? With that, I would conclude my comments and take any questions, and then look for a discussion on the part of the council.
Alderman Varsho?
Steve, let's see here. Let's go back to your option number 1. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4 here. Okay, number 1. Affordable housing, we went through that. I think that is the best option for this property. We need to unload this quick. We don't have the money or the funds to develop another property. We're doing it with the police station already. We don't have the capability of doing anything. Citizens' comments tonight was great. It was a wonderful idea. I thought it was really cool. We just don't have the timeline to do it. I mean, we don't. We've been sitting here for over a year, and we have to move forward on this. Go to number 2. What about, what do we got here for, what was this for?
Marketing it publicly for sale.
Oh, no.
And looking for proposals.
No, we can't do that. I mean, you can't sell a building because there's going to be issues with any kind of environmental hazards that are in there that we'd have to take care of ahead of time. No. Go to number 3. Was this okay. There is no heat in that building on the 2nd or 3rd floors. There's one thermostat on the 1st floor. You take the tour, the day I took the tour, it was freezing.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to find a firm or somebody to go in there starting in July. What are they going to do in the winter? I mean, they can't occupy the 2nd and 3rd floor. Weinbrenner was only occupying the 1st floor.
Right.
They had storage on the other 2. It's freezing up there. There's no way that we can get somebody in there to do that. And your 4th option for tearing it down?
Yeah.
Being on the historical register, I had Mr. Panker. He's on the historical committee. He gave me some reading material tonight. It's going to take at least a year or 2 just to get through the registers to tear it down. And then it's going to cost us money to do that. A lot of money. I mean, he gave me, I got to read through this. There's pages and pages of, and that is only going through, you know, our local historical society. Then you got to go through the state. Then you got to go through the national just to tear down a building of this stature. We have a great historical commission. The Schnitzlers and Mr. Panker know everything there is about a historical building. As much as I'd like to see something that, you know, as we had in citizens' comments with a museum, a nice bar, or, you know, that'd be great. It'd be wonderful. Community center for people to do, it's just not feasible at this time. We have till July, and then we have to start maintaining this building. At least we don't have to heat it July, August, and September. But if we get into October, November, we're gonna have to start heating this building so the pipes don't freeze. We have to go, I personally think we have to go back to Jeffers and see if they want to take this project on and get moving on redeveloping this as soon as possible.
If I can chime in for a second, I really appreciate your urgency, and I don't disagree with your comments at all. Just know that even if we get Jeffers or somebody else to start a project, I mean, it's going to be ours to maintain for a while. I mean, it's not like they're going to walk in and start doing redevelopment work in the summer, but I do appreciate what you're saying.
Alderman Tompkins.
Steve, do you have a stabilization plan right now? Did you guys write it out?
No, that'll be like almost immediate that we're going to, I mean, we've had conversations. You've heard from Jeff Moulter about the issues in terms of the maintenance things that we have to deal with, but we don't have a plan per se, but we would be working on one fairly soon.
So would you like us, because this is discretion of the council, we could do a motion giving you authorization to create a plan and start implementing it? Or do you want to create a plan and have us look at it? What works best for the timeline?
I think that motion would be wonderful. You know that we have $35,000 in budget funds right now. If we have to go beyond that, we'll have to come back to you. But I think your authorization to begin working on a stabilization plan and operating within the budget we have right now, at least to get started, would be great.
Alderman Curran.
I just want to say I agree with everything Mr. Barshall said. I think timing is incredibly important. And Jeff said he spent 6 hours a week in the police station building, which is significantly smaller and a single level. I think we are looking at a very big issue trying to keep this building protected. I was in Eau Claire over the weekend where the Banbury building is. It's probably 15 to 20 Weinbrenner shoe buildings. And the one building that's not occupied is the windows are all broken out. It's graffitied. It looks terrible. And this is a well-developed part of Eau Claire as far as what they're doing in the Banbury building and other parts. And this is also a big swing for us. We were taking in $48,000 a year, and now we're going to be spending $35,000 at a minimum. It's an $80,000 swing, and we're always talking about budgets and how we have no money. We need to do something quick.
Alderman Giles?
Yes, I'm going to agree with both Mr. Varshall and Mr. Curran. Option one is really the only option that's going to save us any money and time, and we just don't have that time.
And we have a motion on the floor, and Alderman Tompkins, would you please? Oh, did you want to spend? I don't see their line, but you want to?
Mr. Weirman and Mr. Spiros have.
Okay, I'm sorry. Who was first? That's okay. Alderman Werman. Sorry about that.
I forgot that when you have the PowerPoints up, you can't always see us, so apologies for not waving. I guess I'll be the black sheep here. I don't like option one, and I know that we had a lot of discussions about this, and I understand that we're in a position where we do have to start making some decisions. I don't know what's in store for this building. I don't know what we can do with it, but I do know that we as a council, we as a government in Marshfield seem to, in the past, have made a lot of decisions based on timing, and I think a lot of them have come back to bite us. I don't know that that's the case with this one, and I'm keeping it very open-ended because I know that I think Mr. Varsho made some fantastic points, like we are in a tough spot. I just know that if it were me, I don't know how we would go about it, but I would love for us to keep discussing this and make it a focal point. I know we keep throwing out the strategic planning. Right now, we have one set for next week. As far as I know, from what Mr. Barg said at the beginning of the meeting, that's still on. I think this needs to be a very heavy topic. I also think we need to decide if it is a priority, but I think there's a lot of things we probably haven't even started exploring yet that we should probably be buckling down on. And it kind of reminds me of the same situation we're facing with the Wenzel Plaza and the entertainment there. And like, we tend to get into a spot where we're always behind the 8 ball and, now we're chasing instead of leading. And I think that's kind of what happened here is we've been talking about this so long, but we didn't really take any major action. And then now we're kind of chasing and we're saying we have to come up with a solution or scrap everything. And I don't want us to be in that position. I think this is a good opportunity yet. And I think that we need to pursue this. And personally, I would like to buy us just that little bit of time, even if it's just a month. I would love to see this body decide like, hey, that's the right move. But I will say there's a couple things that we really have to talk through. And number one is, I agree, Steve, there's got to be a stabilization plan. But I will say just from my perspective, especially Mr. Varshall's point about the budget, I can't approve something that I don't know the details of. It would be too hard for me to say, yes, let's approve a stabilization plan tonight when I don't know what that plan is. I know we have $35,000, but that tells me nothing. If we spend $35,000 tomorrow and you come back and say, hey, we need more money, I'm going to go, well, I don't know what for. So I think that's one thing is we need a plan. And then the second thing is I think we need to start exploring some other options for this. And I would personally propose that we give it a month. And if we don't have a solution within a month, then we go back to the low-income housing because it was an option. I know it's not great, but I just think we haven't really put in the time over the last 2 months with it being the holidays and getting back into the swing of things and going through budget. Like, we haven't given this the time it probably deserves. And I think that we really should make this a focal point of our next month and hopefully give it some appropriate time and figure out if there's an actual solution or not.
If I could just jump in for a second. Thank you, Derek. Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm fine with the idea that you don't want to see any money spent until you've seen a plan. That's fine. I just want to make sure that we're moving expeditiously, and we will at staff level. So however that plays out, however the vote on this plays out, that we can get going as fast as we can on this project to make sure that we're doing the stabilization that we need to for that building.
Alderman Spiros?
Thank you. It pains me to say, but I have to agree with Derek. This is my take on this building. I don't know why I have hearts. Do I have hearts going across my face?
It was hands. I'm not sure why.
Okay, I don't know either. That was very weird. This building, I think, really puts us in a bad predicament, and I do understand the public's perception of this building. I think this building is going to be very expensive, no matter what choice we make. We went down the road with, getting a developer and having the affordable housing, and that was still going to cost the city a boatload of money because, as we all remember, the developer wanted all of this money from the city for help with what they were going to develop, which I found just sort of ridiculous. I feel like a personal business. If you buy a building, you're buying it. That's just my opinion. I just think that we're in a bad position because we really don't know the cost of any of these options. There's no true cost. And I'm not blaming the city for that. I don't think there's a way to figure out the true cost because we've had an occupant in it this whole time and haven't really been able to look at the building empty. There's a lot of things that are not being seen, and I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of cost in this building, no matter which option we take. I think it's best that we really keep the public updated on the condition of this building, on the expense with keeping this building, on the expense with not keeping this building. And I don't feel as a council that we have that information. I think that there's a general, maybe a general thought process. There's no heat in the upper 2 floors. The boilers are out. The windows stink. It's losing heat. There's not enough parking for anything constructive there. There's just so many hurdles that we haven't been able to evaluate fully or understand the cost involved in those. I am also uncomfortable with saying, yeah, just, come up with some sort of plan and don't keep us advised. And I'm just curious, Steve, what would be your prediction on how long $35,000 would last?
I'm sorry. I heard a voice. That's a good question, Rebecca. I really don't know the answer, and that's something we'd have to start cranking out in the next couple of weeks. It depends how far. If I can look back at my own slide here and see what was called out. Securing and weatherproofing is a big one. How much is weatherproofing going to cost? What does security even mean? I'm sure that the police department, Travis is here right now, and I'm sure they're wondering what it's going to take to provide some level of security that we can count on, so that the building's not being broken into and trashed, on a regular basis. What does it mean when we say steps to prevent further deterioration? So you're asking a good question, and I think it's incumbent upon staff to come up with some idea of what, putting it down on paper, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, what would we suggest to do, and roughly what those costs would be. That's why I said that I really appreciate the motion made by Councilmember Tompkins, but if you want to hold off on giving any direction or authorization until you see a plan with maybe some rough cost estimates, that's fine. I just want to make sure that this has become priority number one.
Alderman Varsho?
And just if I can respond,
Yes, you can. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. So this list that you're presenting is long and it's scary. I feel like the $35,000 will be spent in 10 minutes. And that's not to be mean or nasty. It's just to say just the first thing that you list there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like that's going to cost you more than $35,000 to secure and weatherproof the building. And so I'm just very worried about the cost involved in trying to preserve this building. And I have to be just quite honest about that. And I think that we need to get firmer dollars. We need to get firmer costs. And I don't know how we do that. I've asked, for that in the past. And I think that, we did the best that we could in an occupied building, but it's going to look a whole lot different when it's not occupied. And I think you're going to find a whole lot more skeletons than we're anticipating.
I recognize, and I would like to say that your concerns are valid. They truly are. The only thing I keep coming back to is unless we go to alternative 4 ultimately that we're going to raise the structure, under any of these scenarios, we're going to be maintaining that building for some period of time. Even if we get a J. Jeffers or somebody else to do a redevelopment plan, they're going to have to be applying for tax credits and putting all their pieces together. And, if we're marketing it, we're going to end up working with somebody else for a period of time before they actually take possession. So it's hard to envision a scenario under which we're not going to have at least some level of significant maintenance cost and need to secure that building. But that's fine. I mean, certainly depending on this vote comes out, we can certainly go back and we'll do it anyway and put together more of a plan working with everybody that we have together on staff that would have a role in this. Everything from our building facilities coordinator, the police department would be involved about their needs, fire department, whoever, utilities people or plumbing inspector, whoever it is, and come up with the best plan we can of what needs to be done and get an estimate of what that's going to cost. I think that's a very fair request, obviously.
Alderman O'Reilly?
Thank you. I guess that kind of led into what my question was going to be is you're mentioning the immediate need for stabilization, but you had mentioned approval for a stabilization plan. Are you looking at just putting together a stabilization plan with kind of what you were requesting, or are you looking for just direction to move forward with whatever needs to be done?
Well, I'm going to go back to could you read maybe the motion that was made, Jessica, if you don't mind? So
We don't actually have an official motion.
Oh.
Ms. Tompkins mentioned the possibility of a motion.
Okay.
There was not a formal motion made.
The most important thing to me to answer your question is that you say, yes, staff, this is important, put a plan together and come back to us. We want you to know that there's $35,000 available. I don't know how far that'll go. But it's hard for me to say I need approval tonight when there's not numbers in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
But authorization to where this council says you're on the right track, get something together. That would do it for me at this moment, actually.
Alderman Fire?
Having served on the Housing Committee for the last 2.5 years, the biggest effort that we've got, and the word that comes out all the time, is affordable housing. Nothing else has ever been mentioned about anything else. When you look at affordable housing, and I just went through a 35-page document this afternoon, and when the bottom line says that we need at least 80 units of affordable housing. Read that, it's 35 pages. You read through it all, and it gives you all the statistics. And everybody should read that report that I read this afternoon. And I realized we don't want affordable housing, but then we went out and said for another RFQ or RFP, whatever you want to call it, for the one for market rate. And we were fine with that. But now that we haven't got our way with the market rate, now we don't want affordable housing. I think we have to make a decision on this. I think the building should be used to make affordable housing. And I think you also have to just state, as soon as Weinerbetter moves out, you better protect those windows, because I bet you won't have 2 months, you won't have windows on the bottom floor. And the police department will tell you it's going to be a nightmare to maintain if you don't get it sealed up, because they will get in there. Even if you're sealed up, they will get in that building. So I think it's time we make a decision on this. And taking it down is not an option, and the longer you wait, the worse it's going to get.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, some of you know the vandalism we've had over time at the airport terminal building. I mean, this is a much bigger version of that, so we're concerned about trying to protect and secure the building from entry and make sure that it's taken care of properly for however long as ours. We need to do that.
Alderman Tompkins?
I have two questions. One, Steve, if you wait for 2 weeks and give us sort of a bit of a guideline of what stabilization means and how much you think that's going to cost, is that going to significantly change the timeline for stabilization?
Probably not, because what we're talking about right now is going to have to be part of what it's going to take to move forward anyway. In other words, we can't call somebody tomorrow morning and tell them we want to buy this product or do this thing. So I don't think it's going to drastically delay it. It's crank it up right from the beginning and get back to you with a plan and with estimates, and then start having people lined up to do it. Are there things we can do ourselves? I assume we'll have to contract for a lot of it. Whoever said earlier that 35,000, won't likely cover it is going to be right, I assume, even though this is not my world. But no, it won't. We'll take whatever you give us and run with it and come back. It won't be a significant delay. We need to do the kind of things we're talking about anyway.
My second question is, we did, was it a month ago? We were asked to go down each alderperson and to say how we thought the building should be used. And I do believe that the majority of people said housing. I can't quite remember. But I do believe so. Is it possible in 2 weeks time to have Jay Jeffers look at the proposal that they had originally given us and said, is this valid, and to present it to the council? Is that possible, or do you think that's too fast?
No, I think they might well do that. They seemed interested in working with us if we wanted to come back to them. Then you have the other issue. Do you want to focus on them entirely? There were 3 other companies that made proposals. We could go back to them as well if you want to, or go farther. But Jay Jeffers, upon hearing that the RFQ, the second RFQ, was not producing somebody that we were going to work with, I think they even followed up on their own, as if they'd seen it or heard about it, said we'd still be interested. So I think if they're available, I think they might be interested in talking with us.
I think that it would be good to see if the proposal that they had originally given us, the economy changes, materials are different, tariffs are different. So to see, is that still the same proposal? That would be good to see. I think that what I'm hearing from the council is a lot of people want us to make a decision and don't want us to spend 3 or 4 months making a decision, except for Mr. Werman. I heard him say he would like us to pause. So that would be my recommendation, if possible, that we have a refreshed proposal from them.
Well, that's the reason why I put affordable housing in here, because, you could say we've had 2 RFQs and it hasn't led to anything that the council, wanted to pursue. But I did see the number of hands go up at the last time that we met, and many of you suggested you might be interested in affordable housing. And the reason I know this was not your question, but the reason I didn't put anything in here about market rate or a mixed use or anything like that is because we just didn't get anybody coming forward from the RFQ. But no, I could definitely reach out to engage with Jeffers and see, what they'd be willing to do. I think they want to engage with us. It's been a little while since I talked to him. It was maybe, I don't know, a month or 2, I don't know, but a couple of months. But I will do that, and we'll see what they're willing to do, if that's the desire of this council collectively.
Alderman Fire?
I did miss it. I had my notes down here. I missed one. We had a meeting last week. We're working with them, the Gorman, to do our projects for the CDA. And the conversation came up in our meeting about Weinbrenner, and we had a lengthy discussion. And he did make a comment that that's a beautiful building, and it's what we need for affordable housing. And they were one of them that bid on the original. They were one of the 5 or 6, and they were willing to do that. So that's what he says belongs in that building, and that's what they're putting in these buildings all over.
Yeah.
And he's in the business. So I I forgot to mention that. I had it on the top. Should have had it on the bottom.
And
it was a pretty close call among the people on the committee back in the day, but among 3 of the people who made proposals. So, if you decide you want to look at the others as well, you can do that. I'm not trying to guide you that way, but they were all firms that are reputable and have done those kind of projects.
Alderman Spiros?
Steve, I just have one question. I don't remember the answer to this. Are the historical credits, when they did their proposal, were they 100% certain those historic credits were there? Because I do remember our old city hall, we ran into an issue with that. We all thought those historic credits were a guarantee and that they were there, and the historic preservation committee had approved all that, and then, you know, they didn't come through. I don't remember the reason. I don't know if it's part of the building was historic and part wasn't. But has that been checked on definitively by anybody?
No, it hasn't been, but I'll tell you the thing with the old city hall that we used to occupy until 2018, a lot of that building was renovated and stuff was done to it by the clinic and others who occupied the building before us. So in other words, the character that the building had when it was put on the register had been modified by remodeling and renovation work done by previous tenants before the city took full occupancy of it. And as a result, they kind of came to the conclusion that it no longer had the components or the historic elements to qualify anymore. This building's been occupied by these folks for a long, long time. Has it been modified in ways that would take away the historic character? I don't think so, but that's a question. That's a real question to make sure that it still has that base character that it had when it was put on the register. I didn't get any indication from Jeffers from what they knew about the building, though, that they were concerned about it still qualifying. But it's always worth checking.
Right. Right. I just think I don't want to see a repeat of that because it ended up putting us in a really bad position. You know, we had secured this developer who thought that they were going to do it. And then at the last minute, they were like, we're out because we don't got these credits. And I just don't want to do all of this legwork and have something that Weinbrenner did in there that would jeopardize those credits. I just think it's due diligence.
No, you have a good memory, and you were on the council back in those days, and you're exactly right. In fact, I think that was Gorman we were working with at the time, and it was believed that we were going to have historic tax credits for that structure, you know, the 7-story building, and it turned out that and I'm not trying to blame the clinic. I think they were the tenant that maybe had done some remodeling and renovation work that destroyed actually some of the historic character supposedly of the building. So it's worth asking that question. I agree with you.
Alderman Fire?
Again. Figgies is the one that tore the original building. He tore the floors out, put the tennis courts in. Okay. He's the one that destroyed that building. The original building was the historic before the tall tower. Yeah. That's the reason why it didn't pass, because the historic would not fly.
I apologize to the clinic. I didn't mean to point the finger. I just remembered that they were one of the tenants that did some work in the building, but if it was Figgies. And again, nobody intentionally was trying to destroy the historic character, but as a result of it, a later survey showed that it was not deserving of the credit of the status anymore.
This building this Weinbrenner building was 3 floors. For many years, they had 3 floors. They were making shoes on all 3 floors.
Wow.
And we built it for the Weinbrenner. That was built for them. Nobody else has been in that building but Weinbrenners. It was built in 1930 something for Weinbrenners right before World War II.
Alderman Varsho?
So, I mean, even better to call up Jeffers and see if they can come in 2 weeks and present that again so you can answer Ms. Spiros' question she just asked.
Yep.
If we have a strong consensus of the council that you're open to that idea, that would be great. I want to make sure that we're not inviting you.
That's something that we put in a motion for you?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Okay, we do have a motion by Alderman Tompkins.
So I think we can rescind that motion because that was to start.
Did she actually make a motion?
She has not actually made a
motion.
motion.
You have not actually made a motion, so you can, if you'd like to make that motion, I'm not telling you what to do, but you did not actually make a motion. You just were talking about it.
Well, it's up here on the screen.
Well, right now, you're up to make a motion.
You pushed the button a long time ago, but we never actually talked about
correct, because we've been having everybody else talk before the motion came.
So we're going to make a new motion then. We're going to make a motion to invite Jay Jeffers to come and present in 2 weeks their proposal with any new data or information. That's the motion. There you go.
And Alderman Giles?
Yes, I'll agree.
Okay. Are there any other questions, comments? Do we need to add Do we need to add with that, like what Rebecca had made the comment about the historical?
I'll just look into that
Okay,
independently.
thank you.
The only comment I wanted to make as far as, your expectance of when they come here, if they're able to make it, they probably won't have new cost estimates yet. I mean, they can start working on what it would be. Anybody in the trades knows that there's going to be increasing costs, so, but I'll ask them to put together whatever they have and come and meet with us.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we will take a vote. Oh, I'm sorry, Derek, right under the gun. Go for it.
That's
Excuse
okay.
me,
I just
Alderman
needed
Werman.
to ask, do we need to amend the motion to
There was no
include,
other motion,
Steve
Derek.
to come back?
No, there was no other motion.
No, I know. Do we need to amend this motion to include Steve to come back with a stabilization plan, or are we taking that as a separate action, not included as a motion?
Your call.
Separate action.
All right.
Okay, so any other questions? Please vote on this motion.
Mr. Werman?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros?
Yes.
That motion passes. Now, does somebody want to make another motion for the other stabilization? Or is Steve just going to do this?
Directing preparation of a stabilization.
We have a motion by Alderman Varshall, second by Alderman Curran. Alderman Fire? Nope, okay. Any other questions, comments? I know. Seeing none, please vote.
My motion is to have Steve bring us back a stabilization plan to show us how much it's going to cost to do the stabilization.
Thank
you, sir.
Mr. Werman?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros?
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your patience to my presentation and the discussion.
Great discussion. Item T, suggested items for future agendas. Seeing none, item U.
Hang on.
Oh, okay, boy, under the gun, you two again.
It's okay.
Alderman Varshall?
Hey, I drove past Brand Park the other day. There's not a lot of trees. Can you have the forester come in within the next month and just let us know what phase he's in, how many trees they took out, and how many they planted?
Okay.
And when, because I think they got to be in phase 4 or 5. I mean, this was a while, but just kind of give us an update. The summer's going to be coming. Some of those trees are getting to be 4 or 5 feet tall that they planted a couple years ago. Just like a lighthearted, happy type of moment for this council. So, thank you.
A tree moment?
Those are always good. Yeah.
Yep, we like those. Alderman Tompkins?
Could we have a report from Streets on there must be some sort of plan or policy for how to plow Central Avenue. It could either be a memo to the council or it could be a report to Board of Public Works.
And Alderman Curran.
Following up on Natasha, I would like to have some kind of statement from Streets about the snow plowing service. I did reach out to Mackey and Main Street, and I'd like this to be in the form of a town hall, but we're a third partner in this trio, and I think we would need decision makers, I think Steve and Tim, to present to the downtown merchants and try to keep it out of council and handle it that way. But in case it doesn't find the light of day in a quick enough fashion that it comes to council as a full presentation.
Is this in addition to what Councilmember Tompkins was saying?
I'd rather, if we cannot get it in a town hall format with our partners, then I'd like it to come to council, not in a memo form. I'd like a presentation where we can actually ask questions.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Alderman Tompkins?
I just want to say I love that idea of a town hall, but just in case council members can't attend, it would be great if council also had a report somehow.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay. Wow. Seeing nobody else, and make sure that I see the screen here. Neither one of you raising your hands. Thank you. Suggested items for future, we just did that. Oh my gosh, see how that's going? Item U, adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin Statute Chapter 19.85, 1G. conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to legality in which it is or is likely to become involved. Mill Creek Youth Foundation claim for unlawful assessment, and closed session under Wisconsin Statute Chapter 19.581E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Acquisition of easements related to West Fifth Street reconstruction project, possible disposition of city-owned property, development assistant for project at Fry Court and Veterans Parkway. We have a motion by Alderman O'Reilly, second by Alderman Dellis. Seeing no other questions, please vote to go into closed session.
Mr. Werman?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros?
Yes.
We're in closed session. We'll take a 5 So item W, action on matters discussed in closed session if appropriate. We have a motion by Alderman Cran, second by Alderman Giles, and Alderman Cran, what is your motion?
Technically, I hit the button by mistake.
Okay,
I just can't undo it.
so we have a motion by Alderman Dellis. Thank you. And your motion is?
I motion to disallow the claim.
Filed by the Mill Creek Youth Foundation.
I was gonna, but she told me hang on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. That was out of turn to me. I'm an extrovert. I oftentimes fill voids with silence. Not a good thing. You know that, Josh?
We have a motion by Alderman Dellis, and we have a second by Alderman Varsho. Alderman Varsho, you agree with the motion?
Yes, I do.
Seeing no other discussion, please vote.
Mr. Werman,
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros,
Yes.
That motion passes. We have a motion by Alderman Tompkins, and Alderman Tompkins, your motion is?
We're going to approve the real estate offers on the NPPR report and have the Director of Public Works sign it.
And Alderman Varsho?
Yes.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussion, please vote.
Mr. Werman,
Yes.
and Mrs. Spiros.
Yes.
That motion passes. And now we need a motion by Alderman Krantz, second by Alderman Giles, and this is
I didn't hit anything this time.
Oh.
It's not even on the right motion.
I'm not touching it.
Yeah. Okay. Motion by Alderman Dellis, second by Alderman Giles to adjourn the meeting. Please vote to adjourn the meeting.
Mr. Werman,
Yes.
Mrs. Spiros.
Absolutely, yes.
We are adjourned with one nay from Alderman O'Reilly.